Does Andrew Yang have a black agenda? Do you have an agenda specifically for black people?
What's your strategy to not talk to, because we don't need to be pandered to, what agenda items will you have in your administration that will service the community?
I'm for getting rid of private prisons. I think it makes no sense to have prisons that have a profit motivation.
Why do y'all think all black people in jail?
Because I get extremely frustrated with people who, when they talk about black agendas, they talk about criminal justice when the majority of us are not in prison.
Racial inequality in the criminal justice system gets ignored because it doesn't affect most
African Americans, and black men in particular, have become the war's primary casualties. Federal government stats show African Americans make up 14% of regular drug users, but are about 37% of those arrested for drug crimes.
The racial composition of the prison population in the United States is very different from the population at large. If people are worried about inequality in America today, I think this deserves more attention in the discussion.
So we have to dismantle the systems that are in place for putting so many people in prison in the first place. And that, number one, is a drug war.
If you're young, black, and male, it's closer to about 1 in 4. That means you'd have a higher probability of going to jail than of getting married or going to college. These results are unequal and problematic, as poor black communities lack so many of their members.
But what can be done? In 2007, the height of the crackdown, 25.4 million adults were charged with possession or use of illegal narcotics. 8.5 million of those were African American, nearly 3 times the percentage of blacks in the general population. Of the nearly 1 million African Americans behind bars, about 2/3 are there for nonviolent drug offenses.
Full legalization, remove it from the federally controlled substance list. And I would go a step further and pardon everyone who's in jail for a low-level nonviolent drug offense, because it makes no sense to me to have people behind bars for things that are legal in parts of the country. So my plan as president is on April 20th of 2021, I'm going to mass pardon everyone who's in jail for a nonviolent drug-related offense. I'm going to high-five them on the way out, and I'm going to be a very popular man that day. Legalize opiates for personal use.
That's a big deal. I mean, does that include heroin?
Yes, it does. I mean, at this point.
That's right. Andrew Yang has committed to ending the pointless and cruel war on drugs in favor of the Portugal model.
How will legalizing drugs somehow fix this problem?
Well, I mean, just go back to the 1920s with alcohol prohibition. That was the other time in our nation's history when homicides were literally through the roof. We had the running gun battles back then. We had the drive-by shootings back then. But when we ended alcohol prohibition, so did the homicide rate go down drastically. Now, with drug prohibition, we brought it back up again. Violent crime, the gangs in our communities fighting each other over market share for the drug trade. Let me ask you a question. What part of our current policies of drug prohibition are working? Do we have less crime, less addiction rates, less disease, less overdose deaths? No. None of it's working. And the only solution to ending the drug war is to end the prohibition of drugs. That means legalization.
Yeah, I was inspired by Portugal's success, where in the wake of this change in approach, they saw a massive reduction in both overdose rates and substance abuse rates.
You need to make sure is when they're taking up this issue, are they making sure that the prevention and treatment is in place? Are they also dismantling certain policies that lead to this? So, for example, you can't just say, let's get people out of prison and not take care of stop and frisk.
For safe injection sites, safe consumption sites. And I'm for referring addicts to treatment instead of jail and letting them know this.